Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Hasham Yahushai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of First Chronicles, the 21st chapter. And Satan stood up against Israel and provoked David to number Israel. And this also goes to show you that the Most High is in control, right? Because when you read this in 2 Samuel 1 and or 2 Samuel 24:1, it's the same account, but it's worded as, and again, the anger of the Lord Yahweh was kindled against Israel, and he moved David against them to say, go number Israel and Judah, right? But here it says, Satan stood up and provoked David. So how do you reconcile that? Because in 2 Samuel, when the Lord moved David, he basically gave the order to Satan to go into the mind of David to tempt him, right? To put that thought into his head to do that. Okay. And that's why I mentioned Satan basically doing this here, but then it also mentions the Most High because he's the orchestrator and Satan was just carrying out the will of the Lord here. And David said to Joab and to the rulers of the people, go number Israel from Beersheba even to Dan, and bring the number of them to me that I may know it. And Joab answered, and we went through already why this led to a plague that the Lord brought, because in the book of, I believe Exodus, if I'm not mistaken, the Lord said when Moses was to number the people, that they were all to give a, I believe it was a shekel or some amount offered for every man their souls, lest there be a plague. And here that clearly that wasn't done. And during the time of Moses, it was for a specific reason, right? But here it was just for David's inquiry, or just for him to know, which the Lord is not down with that. And Joab answered, the Lord Yahweh make this people 100 times so many more as they be. So, may the Lord increase this people 100-fold more than they already are now. But my Lord the king, are they not all my Lord's servants? So, as he says, why doth my Lord require this thing? So why does it matter? They're all under you. So does it matter if it's 5,000 or 10,000, 7,000 or 8,000? Why would he be a cause of trespass to Israel? So even Joab knew that what David was asking for here was going to bring trouble. Nevertheless, the king's word prevailed against Joab because he was a king, so he had the final say. Wherefore Joab departed and went throughout all Israel and came to Jerusalem. So he went throughout counting like a census. And Joab gave the sum of the number of the people unto David. And all they of Israel were 1,000,000 and 100,000 men that drew sword. And Judah was 400 threescore, that's 460, and 10 men, so 470 men that drew sword. Now let's look at this here in the NKJV, and in really other translations. The 1,000,000 is a million, right? As it says here, all Israel had 1,100,000 men who drew the sword, and Judah had 420,000 men who drew the sword. And let me see something here. Yeah, so in 2 Samuel 24:9, it says here, and Joab gave up the sum of the number of the people unto the king, and there were in Israel 800,000 valiant men that drew the sword, and the men of Judah were 500,000 men. Now, this may sound like a difference, right? I guess like a contradiction or whatnot. But if you actually look at it, from the math that just came to my head right now, It says here all they of Israel were 1,000,000 and 100, right? So that's 1,100,000. And here, if you do the math with 8,000 or 800,000, right, plus 500,000. Oh well, let's see how much that is actually. 800,000 plus 500,000. Okay, so that's a hundred. Shit. 1,300,000. Now let's see what we had here. So here we had 1,104, and Judah was 403,10,000 men. That's what 470,000. 130. Yeah, so that would pass that. So I guess there are different numbers there in that case. But such is the case with when it comes to chronology, especially with like numbers and describing of it down. Because originally I thought that these were just, worded differently but added up to the same. But it is entirely possible that there's a mismatch between the numbers here. But keeping in mind that when you go into the ancient world, for example, during the job of a scribe would be you had the recorders that would record information, right, events and so on. But you had scribes whose job would be to preserve text, right, and records. And they would do that. They were like a printing press to a degree, meaning they would be the ones to rewrite the information from old scrolls onto newer scrolls so that the information is preserved from generation to generation, because the parchment or the papers that the original text was on would start to get old and then fragile. And so in that process of rewriting, I was going to say transcribing, but rewriting it, you do have room for error, especially when you're dealing with numbers. Okay, and then in addition to that, you also have the time of translation. Okay, which from when you're going from one language to another, you're looking at certain Hebrew words. It is easy to mix one or two in here. So that's why sometimes you may see numbers that are different, like in a case like this, in Chronicles versus say Samuel or some other book. But that's not the end of the world, right? Whether it's 130, 1,300,000 here, or 1,500,000 or whatnot, that's once again, that's not the end of the world, right? But coming back to First Chronicles, the point here being that David ended up numbering Israel. It says here, but Levi and Benjamin counted he not among them, for the king's word was abominable to Joab. So Joab didn't count Benjamites and Levites because he wasn't in agreement with this order that David gave him. So probably when he got there, he was like, man, you know what, just leave them out. And God was displeased with this thing, therefore he smote Israel with the plague that he did. But that was because when you read in the beginning, he saw an occasion to do this. More than likely because Israel were doing things that were displeasing to him in the first place. And David said unto God, I have sinned greatly, because I have done this thing. But now I beseech thee, do away the iniquity of thy servant. So put away this iniquity, for I have done very foolishly. And the Lord Yahweh spake unto Gad, David's seer, saying, go and tell David, saying, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, I offer thee 3 things. Choose thee one of them, that I may do it unto thee. So your punishment is going to be one out of these 3. I'll let you pick, and that's the one that I'm going to do. So Gad came to David and said unto him, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, choose thee either 3 years famine, or 3 months to be destroyed before thy foes, while that the sword of thine enemies overtaketh thee. Meaning, you either suffer 3 years of famine, or you're going to spend 3 months at the fleeing, right, for your life at the hand of your enemies, or 3 days, right, or else 3 days the sword of the Lord, even the pestilence in the land. And the angel of the Lord Yahweh and the angel of the Lord Yahweh destroying throughout all the coasts of Israel. So that's the third one. The Lord is going to send an angel who is going to send plagues as a form of destruction throughout the land of Israel for 3 days. Now therefore advise thyself what word I shall bring again to him that sent me. That's what Gad was telling David. So make a decision and let me know what answer to return back to the Lord. And David said unto Gad, I am in a great strait. Let me now fall into the hand of the Lord, for great are his mercies. So David was basically saying he would choose to be at the mercy of the Lord, meaning he'll take the pestilence from the angel of the Lord, because the Lord's mercies are great. But let me not fall into the hand of man. So the Lord Yahweh sent pestilence upon Israel, and there fell of Israel 70,000 men. And God sent an angel unto Jerusalem to destroy it. And as he was destroying, the Lord Yahweh beheld, and he repented him of the evil, and said to the angel that destroyed it, it is enough. Now I believe this was at the time, at the appointed 3 days, but right before the angel was about to let loose on Jerusalem, because it was going throughout all the coasts, that's when the Lord said, all right, that's enough. So when it says he repented him of the evil, it means the Lord basically, his wrath was appeased and now he changed his mind, or not to change his mind, but he called off the evil. Stay now thine hand. And the angel of the Lord stood by the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. Now, when you go into this individual Ornan in 2 Samuel is known as 2 Samuel 24, or not 24. See if I can find it here. But there's a different name used for him in the book of Samuel, but it's talking about the same person. It's just a different variation of the name or the spelling of it. So here we have Nun, right? A Jebusite who sold to David a threshing floor for an altar. And then the other account is in 24, 2 Samuel 24 and 16. And when the angel stretched out his hand upon Jerusalem to destroy it, the Lord Yahweh repented him of the evil, and said to the angel that destroyed the people, it is enough, stay now thine hand. And the angel of the Lord was by the threshing place of Araunah the Jebusite. And that name, when you click on it here, just for clarity's sake, so you don't end up getting confused thinking it's two different people. So this here, Arawana, all by orthographical variation, right? So this is a variation of, in terms of the spelling of this name, of this word right here, which is what? Arnun, right? The same word we're seeing here in First Chronicles. Okay, Arnun, same word, Arnun. So it's talking about the same person, just to give that clarity there. When you see in 2 Samuel 24 and 1 Chronicles 21. And David lifted up his eyes and saw the angel of the Lord stand between the earth and the heaven, meaning he was standing in the sky, right? You had his feet weren't on the ground. Let's just put it that way. Having a drawn sword in his hand stretched out over Jerusalem. So he had his sword drawn out, and this shows you the Lord is a man of war, right? Because here it is, even his angels, right, are in that warlike apparel. And this isn't the only one. But anyway, he has his sword stretched out over Jerusalem, i.e. he's about to send the plagues on it. And David sees that. Then David and the elders of Israel, who were clothed in sackcloth, fell upon their faces. And why were they clothed in sackcloth? Because they were mourning. They were in a state of distress for the plagues and the deaths that the Lord was bringing upon them. And David said unto God, Is it not I that commanded the people to be numbered? Even I it is that have sinned and done evil indeed. But as for these sheep, what have they done? Let thine hand, I pray thee, O Yahweh, my God, be on me and on my father's house, but not on thy people, that they should be plagued. So David basically was taking ownership or showing integrity here to say, Lord, if anything, punish me and my house and have mercy on Israel, because this sin was of me and not them, without him failing to realize that really it was about them, because that's why the Lord sought an occasion. Then the angel of the Lord commanded Gad to say to David that David should go up and set up an altar unto the Lord in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And David went up at the saying of Gad, which he spake in the name of the Lord Yahweh. And Ornan turned back and saw the angel, and his 4 sons with him hid themselves. So they physically saw the angel with his sword drawn and everything, and they were afraid, and his sons, at least they went and hid. Now Ornan was threshing wheat, because it was on his threshing floor. So as he's threshing the wheat, his kids are probably there, or his sons are there, and they turn around and they see this angel. And they're like, oh, Lord, have mercy. And David came to Ornan, and Ornan looked and saw David, and went out of the threshing floor, and bowed himself to David with his face to the ground. Then David said to Ornan, Grant me the place of this threshing floor, that I may build an altar therein unto the Lord Yahweh. Thou shalt grant it me for the full price, that the plague may be stayed from the people. So sell me this threshing floor at full price, so I can build an altar here and sacrifice to the Lord, and he can have mercy and put an end to this plague. And Ornan said unto David, Take it to thee, and let my lord the king do that which is good in his eyes. Lo, I have given thee the oxen also for burnt offerings, and the threshing instruments for wood, and the wheat of the meat offering, I give it all. So Ornan is saying, look, you can have it. You don't got to worry about paying. You can take the threshing floor. I'll even give you some oxen you can sacrifice, and the instruments like the sledge and so on that I use for the threshing. You can use that for wood, for fire. And King David said to Ornan, Nay, but I will verily buy it for full price. For I will not take that which is thine for the Lord, nor offer burnt offerings without cost. So he's saying, no, I'm going to offer an offering to the Lord. It's going to be at my expense. So David gave to Ornan for the place 600 shekels of gold by weight. And David built there an altar unto the Lord Yahweh, and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings, and called upon the Lord Yahweh, and he answered him from heaven by fire upon the altar of burnt offering. So when David offered the offerings, and he called upon the Lord, the response the Lord gave was that fire, sort of like what happened with Elijah, with him and the prophets of Baal. And the Lord Yahweh commanded the angel, and he put up his sword again into the sheath thereof. At that time, when David saw that the Lord Yahweh had answered him in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite, then he sacrificed there. For the tabernacle of the Lord Yahweh, which Moses made in the wilderness, and the altar of the burnt offering were at that season in the high place at Gibeon. So because it was over there, he sacrificed here. But David could not go before it to inquire of God, because he was afraid, because of the sword of the angel of the Lord. So because of what he saw and that fear, he feared especially having committed this sin, to go before that ark. It's like when you're you do something and your parents are mad at you and they like scold you or something, and you're afraid to even talk for the next, God knows how long, because you want the energy to die down a bit. You don't want to go and get cooked because of the remnants of that anger. And that brings us to the end of First Chronicles, the 21st chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. And until next time, Shalom.